they asked Warren Buffett, they said, hey, you're fabulously wealthy. What is the greatest secret to wealth? They were asking because they wanted wealth keys, wanted to know what the greatest key to wealth was. And he thought for a moment, and Warren Buffett looked at him, he said, who you marry is the most important key to wealth, because you have to come into agreement with somebody that's got your back, and you've got their back. So that's all part of the esteem zone. But unfortunately, so many relationships end up in the familiarity zone, where a person feels like they can go where they want to go, do what they want to do, be who they want to be. They don't respect that other person. And so one or two things is going to happen when you get in that zone. If there's children involved, the person may put up with your crap, not to be crude, but the person,
for the sake of the children.
For the sake of the children, I'm going to put up with your crap, But then there's a root of bitterness in the relationship. And so you've got two strangers living together for the sake of the children, a lot of times. But once you get in the familiarity zone, you've either got to pull yourself back into that esteem zone and begin to rebuild that relationship, or you're either going to wind up in a miserable marriage, which there are ulterior reasons for you even being together, which have nothing to do with caring about each other, or you're going to end up divorced, which is where 42%, I think, or 43% of all Christians wind up in the end. And so these three zones, the suspicion zone, the esteem zone, and the familiarity zone, these are the three zones, the three relationship zones that people operate in. I want to ask you something in closing before we wrap this thing up today. If you're married, what zone are you in? Probably don't want to hear that. What zone are you in? Where are you at in your relationship? Are you in the suspicion zone where you don't really trust the person you're with? Are you in the esteem zone where you've got that person's back and they have your back, and you're more interested in their good than you are your own? And you would bend over backwards for that person because you love that person and you want what's best for them. That's the esteem zone. Or are you in the familiarity zone where you're just so egotistical that you just think, oh, I've got you where I want you. I'll do what I want to do. I don't answer to you. And I've noticed when people are in the familiarity zone, there's usually a lot of things. In counseling people down through the years, Robin, wife or husband, either one will come and say, well, my wife didn't even buy me a birthday gift, or my husband didn't even remember it's our anniversary. I've heard all these things as I've sat at my desk in churches down through the years. Person's sad because they say they don't remember that it was our anniversary, or my birthday came and went. They didn't do anything. That's a familiarity zone where you just don't give a crap. You think that that person's there for you, and you have
And on the flip side, they expect to be treated
or
the exact opposite of the way they're treating them.
Or they're surprised when they're not.
When they're not, right.
Yeah, and so suspicion zone, esteem zone, familiarity zone. If you're married, which zone are you in? You really need to think about this. Or if you're planning on getting married, you better figure out if the person you're with, if you can operate in this esteem zone with them. Because let me tell you something, I've said this many times, a lot of people get married because a person is pretty.
Yeah. But pretty can get ugly.
Pretty gets ugly if the person's ugly inside. And with time, that pretty gets ugly. And if you live long enough, everybody that's pretty gets old anyway. And so you better figure out what your motive is, your motivation is for your relationship, and don't operate in the suspicion zone too long. And if you're in the familiarity zone and you want to stay married, you better go to work on yourself and get out of that zone, because you're headed for a train wreck